After the hour of 8 o'clock. As they say, the gang's all here. It is Techie Thursday. We've got Dr. Computer, Alex Newman, with us, and our special guest this morning, Adriano del Valle, Chief Transformation and Operations for Maxia Latam. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Hey, Adriano, I'm rather intrigued. What is transformation?
Okay, at the end, our company is trying to transform the other companies in order to make more efficient through the solution that will digitalize all the internal process and also the IoT process as well.
Okay. Now, this is what we're going to be talking about today. Alex, good morning to you.
Good morning. And especially, that whole the word transformation is, I think, the critical one here. A lot of the times people will go, and companies and even governments will go the way of digital transformation, and then they just focus on the word digital and put digital in front of everything, and they think, okay, that's it. So it used to be some sort of paperwork, now it's digital paperwork. But they don't sit down and think about the transformation way. I mean, you also have to change the way you do things, because otherwise you're pretty much doing the same thing just with extra steps. So that's the important part, and we've had some very interesting guests also speaking about digital transformation before, and I think that's the main thing that people should take away from this, is that the important part is not the digital part. That's important, but the best part, the one that really makes the difference, is the transformation part, where you change the way you do things.
When we talk about digital, are we just sort of talking? I mean, digital to me means that I feel like, perhaps I'm wrong, binary, as opposed to analog. That is what, when somebody says digital to me, that's what comes to mind. But when you do the transformation, digital is the binary, but it's not necessarily what is being done. Would that be close?
Yes, at the end is correct what is saying both of you. For us, it's very important to ensure that when we prepare a digital solution at the company, to ensure that the company assumes that and create a strategy of continuous improvement of the process of change again internally. It's not easy, because at the end, the most difficult thing is to make the persons to make the things. And to use that's the more difficult thing. In any project, you can create the best solutions with artificial intelligence, whatever, but if it's not done or not assumed by the people that is in the company, then you will have a project that is failed project.
Yeah, that's where the people are analog.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. For example, when I have to set up new phone systems that are all digital and have things like interactive menus, or they're smart enough that if somebody from your own home calls you at the office, instead of ringing the reception, it goes straight to your phone, because when you call your work, it's usually because they want to talk to you from somebody at home or whatever. And after certain hours, you can get the call redirected elsewhere, and so on. I mean, all of that smartness. And it has happened that it takes me longer just to sit down with people to decide how to route those calls and how to make the best use of the system than actually installing and putting it to work. I mean, just the process of knowing that you have all of these options and then trying to make the best choice out of all the options that you get is one of the hardest parts, and then getting people to implement it. A lot of the times you'll have people who resist change, even if it is for the better, and that's part of the challenge of digital transformation in most situations. People just clinging to older, less efficient, and not better ways. That's one of the challenges, the people. But usually after you do the work and you convince them and you show them and you make them part of the process, then you get a lot better results.
This is key, because if you don't take care about to to ensure that all the people assumes the solution, then you could fail at the end. So you even of the old people or the people that may be more resistant to the change, you should create a strategy to add to the project. If you can do that, you will be successful, because at the end they will they will be in the same direction to assume the solution that you develop. Otherwise, you could fail, because they will reject that. So it's very important to include all the people from the beginning.
Now, Adriano, one of the topics for today is IoT, and a lot of people will, first thing that comes to mind when they speak of IoT is smart devices around the home, or their, smart devices in their pocket or whatever. But IoT is a lot more than that, and your company has been involved with some interesting projects that involve IoT, or Internet of Things, where different things that used to be just disconnected or had to be managed manually or whatever are now connected either sporadically or most of the time permanently to the internet to transmit and receive information and be a part of that network. How has IoT changed the way we do things in government, in health, in all sorts of places? What's the experience here in Panama with Internet of Things?
Including at home.
Including at home, of course.
Including at home. Okay, at the end, it's a game changer. You know that in the technology that was existing, that is yet existing, is in industrial control systems. That is the classical solution that already is existing, and there are many manufacturers that in Europe and in the US, for example Schneider, Siemens, and others, that provide these solutions with standard protocols and so on. This is a game changer because internet arrives at the market, and there's a huge of new technologies that are arriving, and starting from the sensor at the end. No? The sensor is the beginning. The sensor could be a wearable that you have at home, and you be getting information from you, and there's going to be a monitoring center and they take some people that, or maybe an application with artificial intelligence is getting knowledge about what's happened to you, or could be a solution in a hospital, or for example in a water system, and to take care about what is happening in the network of water network, or what is happening inside of the infrastructure of the hospital. In these weeks, we have launched a small project it's a pilot in a hospital in Panama, where we get information using IT technology of the consumption of power in the hospital, and also in the air conditioning system, in order to save money for the government in this case, and to find strategies to know what are the most power consumption devices that they have in the network. They don't know that. They normally, you go to this kind of solution, and many people don't have information. No? The first step is to get information from the sensor. Then it's going to be a network communication that could be any kind, could be at the end internet, but could be other kinds, because even in some IoT application, even could be even satellite communication. It's not necessary to think that it's internet at all. This is a concept that is changing. And at the end, there should be a server that will get information and process it in a database that typically is a not usual database. That is it's a database that has is a time series database. That means that every acquisition of any data will have a time. Why? Because at the end, what we expect is to have an artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence needs timing. It's like our head. You make decision based on your history, and if you don't know if you don't put in order your history, you don't have any chance to get to make a decision. And that's exactly how it works, artificial intelligence.
Speaking of history, one of the worries when you talk about industrial control and medicine, for example, medical equipment being connected to the internet, one of the concerns that a lot of people have is, these are legitimate concerns. For example, some industrial control systems in some countries were affected by malware from state actors. I mean, if it can go up all the way up in that sense, what are the steps that are being taken when these systems are put in place in order to avoid any kind of security issues, either with industrial systems, which are important, or even with health systems, which are even more important?
Okay, this strategy of security is normally a strategy that you have to take care, even mainly if you are managing information that is sensitive. For example, in healthcare, is very important. What is very all the IoT solution, advanced IoT solutions in the market, they had aspects relative to the security, so you can encrypt the information from the sensor to the database, and from the database even to the monitoring center as well. So there is, at the end, there are a strategy. Obviously, this doesn't mean that you are full secure 100%, but is intrinsically is much more secure by the traditional solution that's in the market, because it is from the beginning the developing of the solution has take account of that. So I don't see much problems if you take care and you make the things in the right manner, using the tools that are in the market for that.
One of the places that would probably mostly benefit from smarter devices, sensors, and just the ability to make better decisions about how to apply resources is the government, both at the state level and at the local level. Would I be correct in my assumption that perhaps the government sector is the last one to implement a lot of these things most of the time?
I don't think so, because for them, maybe the government, they are really interested on these solutions, no? And not only, I mean, in my experience, we are preparing projects for the water government industry, for utilities, as well for hospitals, and they are interested. For example, and it's an IoT solution. In this COVID area, we provide a demo solution for X-ray, and it's a solution that with IoT, basically with IoT technology, a solution that is cloud-based makes a pre-diagnostic of one X-ray, basically to ensure that the evolution of a COVID patient in a hospital, and we provide that for the Social Security in Panama, and they are using in the main hospital, and they are very happy with that. And I think they are open, and for them it's interesting because it's a way to make decisions faster. That is normally not, you know very well, that it normally not happens in the government, and you can let an application to make part of the decision for you. So to give you an advanced decision, a pre-decision. Okay, this is what I suggest, go or not go, but it's already discussed, and with the data that's coming from the IoT, then the application gives you an advanced option of solution. That is good.
I don't know if it would come under the same topic, but one of the things you talk about the government and the government's willingness to look at these things. One of the things that's impressed me recently, and I suppose it's all interconnected, because if you look at the vaccination system, or the vaccination process they've undergone at the moment. Now, they've got, let's just say in one area, they've got 20 odd schools that are doing the vaccination. What I found, really quite amazing, the efficiency, the way that the information has been moved around. In other words, you just give them your cedula, they read it on the back, they get all your information. And what I found was, and what did surprise me, when you think of the number of people that were going to be vaccinated, the number of stations that they have that they were doing the vaccinations at, but within a few minutes of me having my vaccination, I get a little message from the government saying, congratulations, you've had your second dose of COVID-19. This is the batch number. This is where you had it. This is the time. And thank you very much. And the first one, says, wait for your next appointment. That really surprised me. I mean, I hadn't even got home and I get a congratulatory message. But when you look, as you're saying there, Adriano, is that, this is all done. This is on the cloud. This has all gone out. This information is being shifted around all these different places at one time. And yet you still get the efficiency and you get that message, as to say, within minutes.
No, okay. For the government, typically the cloud is not, they don't accept so much because they are still thinking that the cloud is unsecure for them. Huh? Mm-hmm. I don't think why, but it's cheaper, but they don't like that. So normally they buy infrastructure in data centers, mm-hmm. But at the end it's the same concept of cloud because they have a mainstream or a big an area of servers where mm-hmm. they get information and it's accessible for all the devices in the Republic of Panama. And so and I'm pleased what you say because it's really something that is happening maybe in this government more, but it's happening from latest governments as well. That the government still try to make more efficient all the process.
Yeah, I think start off by just explaining to them that it's not really a cloud. It's
just somebody else's computer.
Exactly.
Correct.
Now that being said,
it's something that is starting. It's good anyway.
Yeah.
Now that being said, it's ironic that, for example, you get a jab and 5 minutes later you get an email, all because somebody just used a scanner to look at your mm-hmm. cedula, and from that point on, everything was automated. It was like on rails, just go through the motions, do every step. Gather all the data that's necessary. But then the week after, you go to a Banco Nacional or Caja de Ahorros or whatever, and you want to do some sort of paperwork or whatever, and then they ask you for your cedula again. And then somebody grabs your cedula, then walks back to a room where there's a copier and makes a photocopy, and then comes back, makes you sign the photocopy, and then they make you, pee in a cup or whatever. They do all of this while you have little silos of little pockets of innovation where they actually are doing things right, but it doesn't feel like it permeates to the rest, and that is something that I hope eventually will happen, because one thing that I've always complained is you as the government produced this cedula. Why should I give you a copy of it? You produced the original. You have all the data that you need. Just make me show it or authenticate in some way, and that's it. And that's one of the challenges that we also have. Speaking of challenges, what do you see as the biggest challenge, Adriano, for industry, commerce, and the government, and maybe even academia to go further in innovation regarding internet-connected devices in that sense?
Okay, in healthcare, you know very well that is a big challenge, and I think it's something is moving now, because realistically speaking, there is no really an EMR globally in Panama Republic yet. But there is a movement about that. What you say about what is happening in other institutions, at the end, is something that depends of the number of application integration that you have to do, and it's real that it's not easy to integrate to an application, because you need both sides connected and must be in accord how to make it. And this is something that never happens at the end, because, and even the institutions sometimes they don't like to be, they're conservative, and they say, okay, I don't want to compart my information or to be connected to anyone, and that's bad. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
But I think it must change, because in the moment that we find an institution that create a customer experience totally different, for example, could be in healthcare. What is happening is the rest of the institutions say, okay, I would like to offer the same, because then the customer will say, okay, I like this, I would like this for the rest. Huh? And this is going to be a pressure of an institution. Nowadays, what is happening is most of the institutions are not very, very good on that, because you have to make many manual papers. Huh? They are starting, but there's a lot of papers that you have to go to the institution for that. But it's something that is going to change. We are in the right way, but you know that the government is not so easy, because there's a lot of laws, a lot of regulations, that and a lot of people. At the end, the people they don't like to change. Which coming again to the first step that I mentioned. The first thing is to ensure that the people will be assuming the project from the beginning. If not, then you must find a way to make it. Otherwise, you will have someone that try to make fails your project, and this is happening in every institution. Some very good technicians try to make a lot of things, has a good ideas. When they try to make it at the institution, they don't have any option. Huh? And I'm pretty sure that what the other areas that you mentioned, there's going to be a lot of changes in the future. For example, in water utilities, in also in municipal services as well. This is something that is going to happen. Maybe it takes some time yet, because at the end it's not easy to make this project, because it involves a lot of people. It's not the same a project that involves 10 people that a project that involves 1,000 people. They're totally different. They're different.
So we're just sort of moving away from that aspect, but just sort of looking at home, because we've got so many things around the home right now which are all interconnected, and we're probably doing a better job doing more with that than some commercial. But a friend of mine just saw it, Dominic. He says, I don't want my toaster to do my taxes, because within our own homes now, we have refrigerators which are connected to the internet. We have computers all around the place, laptops. We have our personal assistant. These are all interconnected. These are all talking to each other. And I mean, the other day I sort of thought about, so I remember the movie with Bruce Willis. I can remember the movie. I can't remember the name of it. When he comes home and he starts asking questions of this little screen in his room. And then we thought, our sort of chins hit the floor and said, cool, they said, well, I do that now completely automatically all the time. I'm talking to this woman in my house, which isn't the wife, that feeds me all sorts of information, is linked up with so many other things in my apartment that I don't need to touch anything. I just tell it to turn on TVs and change channels and do everything else. This is, of course, another aspect of Internet of Things, is what we live with in our own domestic surroundings.
Correct. And thanks, and I put it thanks in capital letter, because it's not such thanks, but thanks to COVID, there is a lot of things that change. I'm pretty sure that no school will prepare a learning solution. They don't have it, and they have to prepare something like we have made now, mm-hmm. with the Zoom solution. Mm-hmm. We never used before. We started to use with COVID, and at the end, it's a way to get data. In this case, the data is an image and an audio, but we can say that this is a kind of IoT. No? It's an IoT without information, but if we include, for example, artificial intelligence solution with the image, we can get, okay, now Adriano is laughing or is not laughing or is moving or whatever, and we can get a lot of things from that, because at the end it's a sensor, and
Well,
a camera is a sensor.
No,
Okay?
no, absolutely. It is still passing information. The information
It's passing information.
going back.
Information is the voice and the image at the end.
Sure. But you're quite right, because until we went into the COVID lockdown, I'd never heard of Zoom.
Exactly like that, and that doesn't mean that we are something that we are in the other century, in the century before. It's something that no one's used it before.
Exactly. Now we're incessantly using it, and I think that's going to continue as well.
And this will help to make these game changers faster, because now it's a need. If you cannot you cannot mobilize yourself, then the institution and also the companies must provide you another way to make it.
Now, you mentioned something about local governments also implementing IoT solutions, and I have some experience with that. And I think that's one of the best places where IoT solutions can really make a difference in people's lives, because municipal governments are closer and to the actual person that's getting governed and who wants all these resources to be used in the best way possible. That being said, I don't know if you agree, but I would like your opinion on that. Perhaps you said that projects involving less people, don't necessarily have the same clout as the bigger ones. But one thing that I've seen time and again in a lot of places around the world is that the smaller towns sometimes have an advantage because there's less people to affect positively or negatively, so they can be used more for innovating in this area. Like, I know a couple of towns in Central America that I had the chance to visit are doing wonderful things with IoT devices, such as sensors that save energy because they turn the street lights on and off depending on the activity level. For example, if nobody's walking through a street, then it dims the lights to 10, 20, 30% of usual. And if somebody walks towards a certain direction, then they turn up again to 100% brightness, and they pay for themselves in a matter of weeks sometimes. Or they have artificial intelligence in the cameras so that if there's any kind of an accident or an incident or whatever, you can actually tell who was there or how many people are in a certain spot and things like that. What's your take on how Panama and the region is using these smaller towns to implement IoT solutions that will then benefit the bigger ones?
Okay, that's only the depending of the authorities. If there's an authority that is a visionary, and they decide to make something and save money at the end for expenses that they have, and I think it's the easiest way to save money is to save money, for example, in what you say, in power savings is very relatively easy. For example, the director of Social Security is now preparing the new director, Dr. Enrique Lau, is preparing a project for create savings of energy savings in the whole Social Security. So they need an IoT solution to have an overview what is more expensive to make decision in every hospital. So this device spends a lot than the other ones. We have to find a way to use less or to change or whatever in order to because they pay $25 million per year in energy. Imagine. This is actually the same what is happening in Iran. Iran pay $30 million in energy. If they make a strategy and they save 20%, there are millions of savings. Okay, and I think 20% is quite easy to have it. So this this is something that, okay, any authority can decide to make it, but not all the time they think that this is important. Okay, this is something that okay, the expenses are okay. All the Panamanians, we pay the taxes, and at the end we expect that the authorities will take care about this money, not to expense in all the in maybe using a lot of energy, and we can use a little bit less, no? Because then they can make savings, and maybe they can use that with projects that will have impact in the citizens and make it better. Okay, so I think it's something that depends. It depends of the authority. I think there are many. What I know is there are many authorities in the actual government that, and also in the government before, that they have this vision and they try to make it. Right? So, but it depends. So the solutions are on the are available, and then they can decide to use it. But it depends of them, because at the end, you must make a little expense to get the result. If you don't make the expense, it's a very little, but you have to decide to make it, because if without information, at the end, IoT gives you information to make decisions. You cannot do it. Right?
Very good. I'll tell you what, one decision I can have. We're making our way up towards the top of the hour, so we're going to sort of call it a day. I'd like to thank you very much, Adriano del Valle, for being with us this morning. It's been very, very interesting. And as always, Alex, Dr. Computer, Alex Newman, thank you to you.
Thank you, Jerry. See you next week.
Yeah, thank you both very much indeed. There we go. So that's it. It's all about IoT.